So welcome back everybody. In today's video, I'm gonna be processing up a buck that I got here recently, and we're about to shoot to some of that footage. It was right before dark, the camera was really graining, but there was a lot of action leading up to that point. And you can see that I shot this buck, I shot him almost through the heart. He ran about 50 yards, he goes off camera, he literally piled up right where you see him run off camera. All right, y'all, so I lost light, but I went out there with a tractor to get this deer. It's gonna be hard to tell with a little GoPro, but y'all, Florida deer in general don't get large. This is probably the biggest bodied buck that I have ever harvested, and definitely the most number of points. I've been watching this buck on camera for a while, and I could tell, I think he's always been this way. And he must have some offspring, because I got another buck that's much younger than him that has the same weird point on one side. But y'all, if this buck had have been the same on both sides, this would have been my biggest buck ever in my life. Now, there's definitely bigger deer in Florida, but they're hard to find. All right, so if we play the, if you can hang a ring on it, you can count it rule, you're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14 points. If we play that's got to be an inch or longer, you can throw that one out and it's 13 points. I would much rather this buck been the same on both sides. Nice and gorgeous. He looks like an older buck by Florida standards. Ruger, quit licking that deer. Ruger, man. Ruger got so excited, didn't you? He got so excited. So I'm getting all my stuff set up and ready, bleaching and cleaning everything. We're gonna do a little bit of processing. I normally show this over on our main channel, but I thought I'd show it over here since we're gonna show some hunting. Then I'm gonna show you how we process and put up our deer here. So maybe you might find something interesting from the equipment to types of things that I do. So this buck has been in the 65 quart cooler for over a week. You can see I got meat almost all the way up to the top. So we've got a lot that we can process here. So this is how I do it. I start out by layering the cooler with ice. I'll take the meat off the bone while the deer was hanging like you've seen, layer it in here, layer some more ice, layer some more meat, more ice to make sure the deer is cooled down as quickly as possible. This is a cheap method that a lot of people do when you don't have a walk-in cooler. What it does is it causes the meat to draw up because all the coldness, it preserves it, and if you'll leave it tilted with the drain open, all that blood runs off of it. I really think it makes your deer not taste as gamey. Now there's plenty of people out there that claim this method is not very good. You wind up with like a bland piece of meat. It's best to hang in a walk-in cooler. There could be some truth to that. This is the way I've always done it. We enjoy the way the deer meat tastes coming out of this, and we just do not have a walk-in cooler. Okay, so a lot of these muscle groups right here are muscles that I took off of the deer while I was hanging from the hindquarters. Some people will take the meat completely off the deer and leave the bones on. I've started doing that with the exceptions of the front shoulders. Some people will cut and down and butcher like a cow and leave everything actually quartered up bone in, and then come in after they hang in the cooler or run through an ice bath like this, then they'll debone it inside. I happen to have the majority of my meats already off. As you can see, I'm gonna talk to y'all like maybe this is your first time and you're learning. All of this silver skin right here and sinew, this is really tough stuff. You don't want it ground up or cut up in your meat. So we're gonna go through and remove that silver skin. You can see we still have muscle groups that we can break apart right here. You can just follow them with your finger and knife. And then the majority of this is going to burger. We buy part of a cow every year, so I'm not concerned about making roast and other things because let's just face it, very lean meat right here, and cow roast are a lot fattier and a lot better. I like cuts of cow better than deer, but deer makes excellent burger. You can either add fat, which we're gonna add some today. I've been saving fat off of my brisket cooks, so I have several pounds of beef brisket fat. Save some, you can really grind it in like this. And then we're gonna do several pounds of burger fat-free that we're gonna make into jerky. You do not wanna add fat to any meat that you can that's gonna be jerky. You always hear you wanna get the leanest meat that you can for jerky. Well, we're gonna go almost fat-free. That keeps our jerky from turning rancid as quick. It allows it to dehydrate better, not get greasy and oily. It's just a better product overall. And probably all I'm gonna do today is cut some of the back strap up into sections. We may run those through a cuber, and we can either use those for like cube steak and gravy or country fried steak, or we can just straight up fry those if we want to and have your traditional fried venison. There's so many different things you can do with these cuts. You can leave some of these muscles whole, throw them in the crock pot, make stews, cook them down, pressure cookers, things like that. You can use this meat just like traditional beef. You've just got to understand it's very, very lean. So I've got my big grinder set up right here. I'm just gonna start cutting and cleaning that meat up, throwing it up until we fill up the grinder. I've got my coarse large hole plate right there. We're gonna grind it out, and then we're gonna try and put our small grinder plate right here with smaller holes and double grind all this once we add our beef fat. You can see I've got a bag of vacuum sealed beef fat for my briskets, and then we're going to add it in at a pretty heavy ratio to make us some delicious tasting and fattier burger. From there we just work on down to this chamber sealer that I have. Y'all, I highly recommend chamber sealers. I've gotten away from doing vacuum sealers. I've run those forever. Those are junk compared to a chamber sealer. All the air is actually pulled out of this chamber while your bag stays inflated, so it doesn't pull blood and juice and everything else out of the bag. Then it automatically seals the bag, dumps all the air out of the chamber, goes back to atmospheric pressure, then the bag instantly seals while all the liquids, juices, and meat remain inside. So cleanup is a breeze with one of these. You can marinate with them, you could even vacuum seal soups, and they're very powerful. The other good news is the bags, you can buy them in bulk, are far more affordable than your regular vacuum seal bags. All right, so I'm gonna get me an old scrap bowl right here. I've got some nice sharp knives. Let's go ahead and pull out one of these muscle groups. I actually like using fish fillet knives, and then whenever I get down to smaller muscle groups, I have an old Japanese steel knife that I really like here. So you can see, as far as muscle groups go, on both the shoulders, some on the neck, and definitely all the different muscle groups on the ham, you can just kind of follow them through, nick at it, and they'll fall apart. Now, we're wanting to remove any of this fat. Wild game fat is not good, actually give your meat a really bad taste. So we're gonna make sure we get that out. All of this kind of sinew, we're gonna quickly cut that off. Some of it you can even pull off with your finger. Again, all that fat right there. And the reason I like using a big fish fillet knife is I can lay this meat down, and this silver skin that you're seeing, I can lightly flay it off just like fish skin. Then we'll cut our strips up that we know that our grinder can handle. We're also looking for any hair, any pieces of sticks, twigs, all that stuff can happen in the cleaning process and hunting process. We do not want to grind any of that into our meat and contaminate it. I've also got my AC kicking in here. We got the room nice and cold. I come out a while ago and did that. We do not want this meat warming up on us much. So I only bring in what I think I can process within a few minutes. That way everything stays nice and cold out in the cooler and in the room. I'm also looking for any bloodshot meat. Well, I definitely have some on the shoulders. You want to make for sure you get bloodshot meat out of this as well. We do not want to grind that in. That gives you a really bad gamey iron and bloody taste. That piece is almost big enough to go in this big grinder that I have, but we'll just split it right in half in strips like that. Good enough. Now this muscle right here, we're not going to go over all this because I'm definitely not a butcher, but it kind of fillets open and it'll have some tendons and other pieces in here that I like to make for sure that I get out. Just cut me another grinding strip here. Clean that up just a little. All right, I think you get the point. We're just cleaning everything up, saving any of the large muscle groups that you want to stew down or cook, or cutting up whatever size clean pieces that you need for your grinder if you're going to do a bunch of burger like us. I'll see y'all back when we kick this grinder on. All right, we have quite a few pounds of meat up here. We're just going to kick the grinder on, grind it to the bucket. I'm going to finish cutting some up, and then we're going to separate probably 5 to 10 pounds out for jerky. Then whatever we have left, we're going to grind in with that fat that I was showing you and telling you about to make some really delicious burger. I love this grinder. I started out for a long time using a little cheap plastic grinder. Oh, you had to cut the meat up so thin you couldn't put big chunks like that in there. This thing would just chew it up, throw it out. Quick as you can put it in there. No waiting. All right, so one thing that I'm going to do now, I want to fill this tub completely up. This is the beauty of working in a room set up just like this. I've got a lot of room in a big refrigerator out here. I'm going to take this tub, stick it in the refrigerator so this meat stays chilled while I go get more out of the ice, cut up more. And if at any point any of this ever gets too hot or this went on for too many hours, which it's not going to with a single deer, all you do is bleach your stuff down, clean it, start over. But moving stuff back and forth to the refrigerator while I'm going to get the fresh stuff out of the cold cooler really makes me feel good that I'm not going to have anything spoil any issues. Plus, we're keeping the room nice and chilly. All right, so I put up probably 10 pounds of deer meat with no fat. That'll make quite a bit of jerky. And we have a lot more than that left in this tub down here. So here's some of the beef fat that I've been collecting. Just gonna cut it up in strips. We're gonna change the plate out on the front to the small plate. And we're gonna re-grind the deer meat along with adding the fat in it, then hand mix it all to where we think it's nice and consistent. And we get a beautiful brisket fat infused deer meat for making burgers, tacos, anything that we want that you would typically use ground burger for. So all I'm gonna do is cut this fat up in strips. It'll fit down the throat. and change that plate out. I hope this works out well because I'm gonna start saving a lot of the fat from these brisket cooks that we do. This is my first time actually ever doing this. But I know a lot of people that go to the butcher, to the store, and will pick up fat, and it's just trimmings just like this. Problem is, most stores around here won't give it away or even sell it anymore. Kind of odd. They keep it for themselves and grind it. All right, change this plate out to the fine plate and get rid of this coarse one. Pretty common to double grind your burger anyways. I personally don't care, but we want to do that when we want to mix the fat in. All right, so we'll do a little of that, and then some fat. Some more meat, some more fat. I think you get the idea here. Look at the way that's coming out. And we'll hand mix it. Make sure it's all nice and good. One thing I don't like about this grinder is this shield to keep you from sticking your hand down there. It's there for safety reason, but it's kind of in the way for doing this double grinding. But this thing is so powerful, I like it for that reason. All right, take a look at this. That is a gigantic bowl right there. It's a 24 by 24 sink. I don't know how much meat's in there. A lot. Look at all that beautiful infused fat. That's going to be some top quality burger right here. Really, really good stuff. It's amazing how much meat you get back when you start doing stuff yourself. And don't forget, I've done put up about 10 pounds of non-fat filled burger for the jerky I'm going to make. Plus, I still have back straps and a few other cuts in the cooler that I'm going to cut up for us to eat other types of ways. Actually, quite a bit of meat off these small Florida deer. All right, so this is another very useful tool here. This is my cuber. If you'll look down in there, there is rotating blades that pull the meat down in and slice cubes or slices into the meat. If you run it through this way, then turn around and run it through again, then it'll look like little cubes in the meat. It's basically a tenderizer. I'm telling you, you run meat through this, you can cut it with a fork when you cook it. So I took my big backstrap sections, the long sections, and just cut them against the grain. And maybe some really thick chunks here. This would be pretty much just fry meat. Little cube steak. You can do several things with this other than fry as well. So watch the way this runs through and comes out. All right, so let's get a thick piece like this. Even though backstrap is a really good cut of meat, that would be tough to eat like that. So we'll run it through this way. If I don't lose my handle. You can see it's got slices straight down it, so now we'll run it through that way. And now, we've got a cubed piece of meat, but it still holds together for frying. Another good way of doing these is cooking them in some gravy. You can do all kinds of stuff with this, but frying is probably the most popular. We fry occasionally in beef tallow to avoid, well, all the seed oils and stuff, and this is about all we fry, honestly. This will be the majority of what we fry for the entire year. Oh yeah. Now you go from tough to tender. All right, a few hours later, the real work begins. Now it's time to bleach and clean everything, carry a big bowl of all the stainless parts into the house. We'll run them through the dishwasher, sanitize them, But we have a bunch of meat put up in the freezer. There's so many different types of cuts and things that we could do, and I just thought I'd bring y'all along for this because a lot of y'all have requested it. So coming up in the future, we'll take some more of this meat back out. I'll show you how I make one amazing jerky, if I may brag, and it's very simple. And Tiffany and I have decided if we get another deer, I'm probably about to go get in the stand right now after I clean up in here. We're gonna do the next one in sausage, so some smoked link sausage sounds awesome as well. We'll continue to bring some of this stuff along. Don't forget, we have a much bigger channel where we put in our food plots and do our tractor work and all the everyday stuff. We save the hunting and fishing and some game related cooking for this channel, but I'll put our other channels down in the description if you wanna go check them out. Thanks for watching. I've gotta get back to work. We'll catch you on the next one.